Chapter 2475. After the huge explosion, the flames didn't go out even after a long time. The remaining ethanol was still burning crazily. There was a huge pit several meters wide at the center of the explosion. Hamson and everyone else from the Immortal Crown heaved a long sigh of relief. After all, Harold was too terrifying. Even if they all worked together, they probably wouldn't be able to beat Harold. Only then did Hamson smile. He looked at Chen Zhao. "Sir, it seems like your fighter is dead. Do you have anything to say now?" Hamson felt that Chen Zhao only dared to come here because Harold was his subordinate. Now that Helith was dead, he had nothing to rely on. "Don't jump to conclusions so quickly," Chen Zhao said with a smile. The flames in the pit at the center of the explosion gradually extinguished. A black ball was revealed in the pit. The black sphere slowly blossomed like a blooming black lotus. Harold stood in the center of the black lotus, completely unharmed. Everyone's expression froze. Not dead? She didn't die? No, she wasn't even injured. How was it possible that she wasn't even slightly injured by such a terrifying explosion? Harold's expression was extremely gloomy as she walked out of the pit step by step. Everyone's heart sank to the bottom. Truman's moment had indeed given them hope. But at this moment, what they felt was unprecedented despair. Even Truman's trump card wasn't able to counterattack her. Could this woman really be defeated? Harold stood where she was, her expression uncertain. However, her gaze never left Truman. Truman smiled bitterly. He had no chance to turn the tables. In a short 2 minutes, he'd used up all his magic. Plus, so what if he was at his peak? He still couldn't harm that woman at all. Finally, Harold said, "You won this round. I lost." With that, Harold turned and left. Hamson and the others were all dumbfounded. "What? Lost? No. Weren't you unharmed? Are you insulting our intelligence? You clearly had a complete victory, okay?" But Harold didn't plan to explain more. She was just that cold. Hamson and the others, on the other hand, had very complicated feelings. "Harold, what are you doing? Are you going to quit?" Chen Zhao grabbed Hele eyes. "I've lost. You handle it yourself. I don't care." Harold couldn't help but look at Truman again. For some reason, Chen Zhao felt like he saw an unusual gaze. Could it be that Harris had promised to marry whoever defeated her? Deal with it himself? Of course, his original plan was to kill them all and end it once and for all. But if he really killed that Truman guy, would Hyles be happy? Hamson and the others watched as Helith left. In the end, she disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, they left Chen Zhao where he was. They all came up with such a scenario. Could it be that the woman had long disliked her boss and even hated Chen Zhao? However, due to some oath, she couldn't directly attack Chen Zhao, so she purposely used this opportunity to get rid of her boss through the hands of the others. The more Hamson and the others thought about it, the more likely it was. Chen Zhao put away his awkward and troubled expression. "All right, since my subordinates don't intend to kill all of you, I'll give you a chance." "Sir, you seem to be mistaken." "Chance? We've never asked for any chance," Hamson said confidently. He wasn't afraid anymore. They didn't even have anything to rely on. What was there to be proud of? "Huh? You don't want my chance?" Chen Zhao really didn't know about their colorful inner thoughts. He was Hele Ai's boss. Since Hele Ai's was already so powerful, he was definitely more powerful than her. Wasn't this just common sense? "You fight for opportunities," Hamson said matter-of-factly. "Not charity. Fine. I like to see how you fight for it." To put it bluntly, these people were shameless. Chen Zhao would never give in to people like this. "Kill him," Hamson ordered. Instantly, colorful spells shot toward Chen Zhao. But all the spells disintegrated before they could even get close to him. What's wrong with this guy? Why can't spells hit him? All the spells poured onto Chen Zhao, but they couldn't even get close, let alone hurt him. "You better work harder. I'll give you 30 more seconds." Chen Zhao glanced at the time. "Countdown starts now." Everyone's hearts were shrouded in a layer of shadow, and they tried their best to release magic. But they couldn't even touch a corner of Chen Zhao. 30 seconds are up. Now it's my turn to attack. "Everyone protect the fortress," Hamson exclaimed. In desperation, everyone forced out a lot of magic power to maintain the fortress of protection. Chun Zhao raised his right arm. Without storing any power, he punched from more than 30 meters away. Boom! The fortress shattered. Along with the shelter fortress, 5 other people were destroyed. Their bodies exploded like flowers. The remaining 12 people were all thrown to the ground by the terrifying shockwave. They spat out blood at the same time. Only then did Hamsun realize that Hell Eyes was just throwing a tantrum. He didn't want to kill them with a borrowed knife. Even if Hell Eyes wanted to kill them with a borrowed knife, he had to be qualified. Chun Zhao had destroyed the fortress they'd built together with one strike. He didn't need any more proof. Chun Zhao secretly thought that was close. He seemed to have attacked too harshly and killed 5 people instantly. Luckily, Truman wasn't dead. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how to explain to Hell Eyes. Chun Zhao strolled over and stood before Hamsun. "How is it? Did you get a chance?" Hamsun's face darkened. He felt very stupid. Chun Zhao had said that he would give them a chance. He just had to jump out and ask for it. "Do you still want a chance now?" These words were a form of humiliation to Hamsun. But at this time, if he said no, none of his juniors would be able to live. Even if he lost all face, he couldn't say no. "Yes. Okay, I'll give you if you want. Look, I'm actually very easy to talk to." Chun Zhao smiled. "My motto is love and peace." Hamsun and the others felt their stomachs cramp at Chun Zhao's words. He'd only attacked once and killed 5 of them cleanly. This was love and peace. This wasn't love and peace. This was love and peace, right? Chapter 2476. Chun Zhao glanced at the remaining people. "I can generously forgive you for your schemes and harms to me and my family," Chun Zhao said in a gentle tone. "But you set fire to an elementary school. This can't be forgiven," Chun Zhao said in a gentle tone. Hamsun's expression also changed slightly. He couldn't help but look at Stanley and Truman. Even though they'd just been born, they knew some rules in the spiritual world that touched the bottom line. Setting a fire in a school, especially in elementary school. This wasn't allowed in any industry. If caught, they'd be beaten to death. Thus, when Hamsun heard Chun Zhao's words, he couldn't help but be shocked by Stanley and Truman's guts. At this moment, even Stanley and Truman were shocked. They both waved their hands in denial. No, I didn't do it," Truman said hurriedly. "We didn't do it." They'd both heard about the fire in the elementary school. However, they hadn't taken it to heart. They just treated it as an accident. It had nothing to do with them. But after hearing Chun Zhao's words, they suddenly realized that they were the biggest suspects. This wasn't a joke. After all, they had the motive. "You said you didn't do it? Why should I believe you?" "When the fire happened, Mr. Truman was drinking at a bar in town," Stanley said. "I was there. The bar owner can testify for us." "This evidence is meaningless," Chun Zhao sneered. "We're all spiritualists. I have 100 ways to create an alibi." Just as Chun Zhao had said, a spiritualist could totally fool normal people. The two were troubled. After all, they couldn't take out direct evidence. After all, they hadn't expected the school to catch fire. Thus, it was even more impossible for them to gather an alibi. "I have an idea," Hamsun said hurriedly. "I can use Suatan's trial. If Suatan's trial proves that they're guilty, we're all willing to accept the same punishment." Hamsun didn't have the right to negotiate. None of them could. If Stanley and Truman were the culprits behind the arson incident, none of them would survive. The only thing they could do now was to prove whether they were guilty or not. Sotan's trial was also known as the Trial of the Grim Reaper. This spell would summon the Grim Reaper. It was up to Death to determine if they were lying or not. People could lie to their own kind, but they could not lie to the Grim Reaper's promise. Once they broke their promise to the Grim Reaper and lied, then their souls would be directly harvested by the Grim Reaper. Sure, Chun Zhao accepted the request. Of course, this spell was very difficult, and the success rate was very low. Hamsun looked at Stanley and Truman and said, "This is your last chance. Before I use Suatan's trial, I'll ask you one last time. Did you guys start the fire?" "We didn't do it," Truman replied firmly. "We didn't do it," Stanley also replied. "All right then, let's begin Sotan's trial." Hamsun shouted softly and made a strange gesture with his hands, Messenger of justice, receiver of death, please listen to my call. I welcome your judgment with my oath. Suddenly, Hampson's surroundings began to be shrouded by a black aura of death. Hampson's face revealed a pained expression. However, Hampson persisted. The aura of death gradually formed. A figure with the aura of death appeared before everyone. Chun Zhao was stunned. He looked at the black figure before him. Blackie? Why did he summon Blackie here? Who wants to start the trial? Blackie glanced at everyone. In the end, he said to Hampson, you can ask 3 questions. You can ask 3 different people at most. The person being asked can remain silent, but not lie. Otherwise, their souls will belong to me. Hampson nodded. Who's first? I'll go first, Truman said. No lies. Blackie made the first trial. Hampson did not think that he would waste the first question like this. Did you and Stanley start the fire? Hampson did not dare to be long-winded anymore. If someone else were to continue the conversation, it was very likely that he would accidentally lose another opportunity. No, Truman answered. No lies. Blackie's answer made everyone feel lucky. Thankfully, it really had nothing to do with the fire. Otherwise, they would have died from Chun Zhao's rage. Hampson's third question was for Stanley. Last question. Do they have anything to do with the fire? No. Hampson heaved a long sigh. Thankfully, it really had nothing to do with them. Chun Zhao glanced at Hampson and the others. Although you didn't do it, it doesn't mean that you're completely innocent, Chun Zhao said righteously. I'll give you 1 week to find out who started the fire, Chun Zhao said in a righteous tone. Even though some people were unhappy with Chun Zhao's request, they did not dare to say anything. Chun Zhao wasn't begging them or trying to reason with them. Yes, Hampson answered respectfully. We're willing to accept this request. After asking the 3 questions, Blackie's body dissipated. Don't think about escaping. You can't. We never thought about escaping. We also know that we can't. That's good. In 1 week, if you still can't find evidence or the arsonist, I'll put you on trial for arson. Hampson nodded. Chun Zhao had achieved his goal, so he turned and left. But no one realized that Chun Zhao had left just like that. In just an instant, Chun Zhao disappeared into the night. Everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. The pressure that Chun Zhao gave them was too great. It was different from Blackie. Blackie indeed looked very powerful. They could at least fight back a little. But when they faced Chun Zhao, they could not fight back at all. The power that Chun Zhao had displayed was completely dominating. You've seen the situation we're facing right now. Don't try to escape or resist. We can't do anything here. Contact 10 smart companions from the headquarters. Also, do your best to investigate the arson in Los Angeles. Our lives are in the hands of that man. Chapter 2477. Mr. Hampson, how are we going to explain to Madeko Pavich? Explain? What? He made us provoke such an enemy. What else do we have to explain? Hampson's face darkened. He was furious that Madeko Pavich had brought them here without gathering any intelligence and had even provoked such a monstrous enemy. Actually, Hampson knew that they were responsible for this too. When he'd accepted Madeko Pavich's invitation, he thought that there were no good ideas in North America. Of course, Hampson wouldn't admit his responsibility. He would only think that their current situation was Madeko Pavich's fault. Thus, he didn't plan to remind Madeko Pavich of anything now. It would be best if Madeko was kept in the dark. The worse, the better. Truman, Stanley, do the 2 of you have any clues regarding the arson case? There are no gangs in Mountain Town, Stanley said. I heard that there used to be, but every time a gang tries to develop there, they always disappear mysteriously. He didn't know why at first, but now he knew. The gangs were probably all drowned in the lake. So we can basically rule out that it's a local gang in Mountain Town. Stanley paused for a moment before saying, there are a few spiritualists in the area, but from the limited information we have so far, they seem to know that Chinese man. I reckon that they more or less know how terrifying that Chinese man is, so they probably won't take the initiative to get themselves into trouble. This was one of the few pieces of information that Stanley could gather. After all, they'd just arrived and didn't have any information system. Hampson's heart sank when he heard Stanley's reply. They weren't familiar with the place and had promised to catch the arsonist in a week. It seemed like he'd agreed very quickly, but everyone knew that it was just an expedient measure. If he hadn't agreed, then what awaited them would have been total annihilation. The guy who loved peace could really do something ruthless to them at any time. Yang was stood at the airport and watched Dao Er and Dao San enter the departure hall. They were finally going back to China. Yang was a bit reluctant and a bit disappointed. He was brought up by Dao Er and Dao San, and more than half of his spells were taught to him by them. They didn't know that he was Yang's apprentice brother, but also his elder. Their purpose for coming here was to bring Yang back. But Yang didn't care whether it was soft or hard. He just wouldn't agree. Even though Dao Er and Dao San had severely injured Yang was still stood by his decision. In the end, it was Dao Er and Dao San who wanted to stay and protect Yang. But Yang knew that the expedition to Bermuda this time did not bode well. He was stubborn, but he couldn't drag his senior brother to die with him. In the end, he had no choice but to call Zhang Tianyi and ask him to recall Dao Er and Dao San. Zhang Tianyi was also decisive. A grand disciple had already fallen into the pit. He did not want to lose two more grand disciples, so he forcefully recalled Dao Er and Dao San. Yang didn't return to the headquarters until Dao 2 and Dao 3's flights took off. On the way back to the headquarters, Yang thought about many things. Chun Zhao had reminded him more than once about the dangers of Bermuda. Yang had already come to a conclusion, but it would be extremely difficult for him to leave now. He had always felt guilty towards Vestana and Brits. He felt that he owed them. So now, he couldn't abandon them. The headquarters of the psionic team had been destroyed because of Toddy Belster's conflict. But then they found a temporary headquarters. This used to be the training ground of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. But now it was given to the psionic team. "Hi, Mr. Toddy." Yang took the initiative to greet him when he saw Toddy Belster. It was as if he had forgotten about the conflict that day. He was as friendly as an old friend who hadn't seen each other for many years. Apart from showing off his power during the conflict that day, Toddy Belster hadn't done anything else. He had returned to his former low-profile and reserved self. Yang felt that this was only natural. If it hadn't tried to test him that day, Toddy Belster wouldn't have flown into a rage. Yang, Vestana, and Brits actually regretted the conflict that day. Yang felt that their relationship with Toddy Belster had been better in the past. Although Toddy Belster never showed his strength, the two of them were more like friends. But after that test, they knew Toddy Belster's power. At the same time, their relationship had changed from friends to partners. The wall in their hearts couldn't be broken anymore. If they were friends, they could do anything in the most dangerous time. But for partners, when one party lost his value, it would be time for the other to leave. Even when the situation was dangerous, one party wouldn't go all out to help. Instead, they would choose to protect themselves. As a liar, even now, Toddy Belster couldn't change some of his habits. Even though Chun Zhao had given him special abilities, he still thought of himself as a liar. It seemed that Toddy Belster had a psychological advantage with the psionic team. But when facing Chun Zhao, Toddy was in a weak position. So, it would be hard for him to change his identity in a short time. Moreover, Toddy Belster was a very clear-headed person. He wasn't as emotional as Yang, and he wouldn't feel guilty for his own mistakes. All of his efforts were for the sake of self-preservation and to obtain more benefits. He clearly understood that everything he had now was given to him by Chun Zhao. More accurately, it was borrowed. He didn't really have it. So, Chun Zhao still controlled his life and death. So, Toddy didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts toward Chun Zhao. "Mr. Toddy, the expedition to Bermuda is set off this weekend. Do you have any thoughts?" "No," Toddy said calmly. "I'll do my part. Mr. Toddy, we might not need to do our part this time." Yang's words had a hidden meaning. "There are some things that even I can't change. Mr. Toddy, you're not confident either." "Yang, you've asked me countless times." Chapter 2478. What are our chances of winning in Bermuda? Not just Yang, but Vestana and Blitz also asked Toddy this question every time they saw him. No matter how he answered, they still enjoyed it. Toddy Belster had long been annoyed by them. "Fuck, I've never been to Bermuda. How would I know?" Toddy knew that they were all confused and scared. He was scared too, but he couldn't tell anyone. Who could he talk to? Chun Zhao. See if Chun Zhao would talk to him. But Yonghua, Blitz, and West Anna kept asking him like this. That made Toddy Belster nervous. Now, Toddy Belster wanted to ask Chun Zhao what exactly was in Bermuda. Toddy Belster had a vague understanding of her own strength, but he still couldn't forget what Chun Zhao had told him. Chun Zhao had given him the ability to summon demons so that he could protect himself when fighting in Bermuda. Toddy Belster called Chun Zhao. The reply he got was that he was busy and would talk to him in a few days. Actually, Chun Zhao didn't have much to do these 2 days. He was just used to being lazy. After a while, he would stop and rest. Every day, he would take the kids to and from school. Also, he wanted to find a suitable preschool for Sindora and Mara. But the preschool in Mountain Town wasn't that good. There were also 1 or 2 private tutors who took in 4 or 5 kids for preschool. The place was also their own home. None of these satisfied Chun Zhao. Of course, there were many high-end preschool classes in Los Angeles, but they weren't close. After thinking for a few days, Chun Zhao suddenly thought of Amber and Clive. Clive was also a teacher at Mountain Elementary, but Didira had said that he'd been a private tutor before. After lunch, Portia stayed at home to take care of the kids. Chun Zhao planned to talk to Clive and Amber. Their houses weren't far. Clive's family lived in Mountain Town. It only took 10 minutes to walk there. When he reached Clive's house, Chun Zhao saw a big boy weeding in the front yard. Another girl was playing with a golden retriever on the lawn. A faint smell wafted from Clive's house. It seemed to be mixed with the aura of magic. Pa, pa. Chun Zhao pressed the horn. Hey kid, Chun Zhao greeted. The weeding youth looked up and saw Chun Zhao. He immediately went to Chun Zhao's car. You must be Mr. Chun. How can I help you? Are Amber and Clive home? Uncle Clive went to school. Annie Onpa went shopping at the supermarket. She should be back soon, the teenager said. Mr. Chun, if you're looking for Annie Onpa, you can wait inside. Okay. Chun Zhao got out of the car. What's your major? Chun Zhao asked. Air. The young man hesitated. Mr. Chun, what are you talking about? What magic attribute do you have? I can feel the magic in you, and so can that girl. Mr. Chun, you too? Yes. I'm an elemental wind elemental. I cultivate both storm and warm current. What are storm and warm currents? Chun Zhao asked, confused. The youth was confused. He thought that Chun Zhao was a skilled spiritualist, but he didn't even know such basic terms. Storm current is all kinds of powerful attacks, while warm current is more of a support type. The youth only felt that Chun Zhao might not be a skilled spiritualist. At least in terms of basic knowledge, Chun Zhao was rather ignorant. Just then, Onpa came back with a cart. It was filled with the resources she'd bought from the supermarket. Mr. Chun, why are you here? Onpa, I came to talk to you and Mr. Clive about something. Chun Zhao looked at Onpa sincerely. In fact, he had a good impression of Ampa and the Clive couple. They'd brought danger to Jerlin because of their mistakes, but they hadn't caused any actual harm to Jerlin. However, they didn't cause any substantial harm to little Jerlin, and little Jerlin managed to survive the danger in the end without much harm. During that incident, Chun Zhao couldn't blame them even if he wanted to. They didn't avoid responsibility or push it away. Instead, they calmly admitted their mistakes. They'd even chased Jerlin to Istanbul and encountered danger. Actually, they had made some mistakes in that matter, but Feilai and little Jerlin were also at fault. Therefore, Chun Zhao couldn't blame them at all. Also, Chun Zhao admired their attitude. About what? Onpa, are you interested in starting a preschool or kindergarten? Chun Zhao wouldn't be at ease if Sindora and Mara were sent to a regular preschool. However, Chun Zhao agreed with Onpa and Clive's attitude and actions, which was rare. Feilai also approved of them very much. Mr. Chun, we don't have the money to start a kindergarten, Onpa said with a bitter smile. Money isn't a problem. I can provide the funds. Mr. Chun, what's your goal? Mara and Sindora are already 5 and 6, Chun Zhao said. They're not at school age yet, but they need to learn some things. But there's no need to start a kindergarten, right? No, not me, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. You can. I'm just sponsoring. Then what do you want? If Sindora and Mara go to school in the city, I'll be worried, Chun Zhao said sincerely. You're closer to my home, and I trust you. I trust that you truly love and protect every child. Anpa was actually quite tempted. She liked children. It could be said that this was her selfishness. Chun Zhao's suggestion was exactly what she wanted. It would be such a blissful thing if he could watch those innocent faces play and have fun in front of him every day. Also, I heard from Didi that you're qualified to be a kindergarten teacher, Chun Zhao said. The only thing I'm not satisfied with is the conditions and environment here. After all, Jerlin had eaten something wrong here last time. That was why everything had happened. Putting that aside, Anpa and Clive were both very good candidates. This was the aspect that Chun Zhao could easily change. As long as he had money, it was fine. He could let them open a kindergarten in a more lively part of town. It was closer to the police station and fire station, and it would be easier to go to other places. Chapter 2479. Anpa didn't agree directly. Instead, she said that she needed to discuss it with Clive. But from Anpa's expression, he could tell that she was tempted. Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He left after exchanging some pleasantries. Chun, I heard something. Chun Zhao received Alex's call. At the moment, Chun Zhao was fishing while Jerlin was diving in the water. She often pulled the hook underwater too. She thought that she could trick Chun Zhao this way. Chun Zhao would also pretend to be tricked and show an indignant expression. Then, he would look at Jerlin's smug expression because he would feel happy himself. What is it? Chun Zhao asked. You asked me to pay attention to Tiger's movements. I heard that he's been looking for foreign boxers. He seems to be choosing an opponent. You can choose an opponent in boxing. Challenge. This is very common in the boxing world. As long as both sides agree to it, and after discussing the commercial share and appearance fee, they can stand in the ring. With Tiger's current status in the boxing world, will anyone accept his challenge? Too many people want to fight him and become famous. Even if they know that they can't beat him, they still hope to use him as a stepping stone. There's also a small group of boxers who have an extravagant hope. What if they win? Does that mean anyone can challenge him? Chun Zhao asked. No. First, he has to be famous and influential. Only then will sponsors be willing to give huge prize money. For boxers at Tiger's level, he'll charge at least $100 million in appearance fee for other matches, apart from the regular season and point competitions. Does that mean that if I can't afford his appearance fee, I can arrange a fight with him? I said that only if both sides agree. You can't do it unilaterally. That depends on how determined you are. In other words, as long as I pay a big enough price, I can decide unilaterally? Is that what you mean? In the history of the boxing world, there was once a duel that used deceit. A nameless amateur boxer spent a large sum of money to buy the media to carry out 3 months of continuous false reports of the match. In the newspapers, he was portrayed as the invincible Jean Jean. He clearly had never fought in any abnormal professional matches, but he became a supernova in the boxing world. No one had even seen his matches, but he had all sorts of incredible titles. Then, he issued a challenge to the #1 boxer at that time. Under the watchful eyes of all the media, the #1 boxer at that time accepted the challenge. Hundreds of sponsors provided a prize pool of $150 million. The winner would receive 80% of the prize pool, and the loser would receive 20% of the prize pool. In the end, of course, the swindler lost. Even so, he still received $30 million in income, and his income was absolutely legitimate. Other than the tax bureau, no one could find trouble with him. What if my fighter already has a certain level of fame? That's not a problem, Alex said. How much are you willing to pay? As long as Tiger is willing to accept the challenge, I can pay as much as you want, but I have a request. What? The winner takes all, Chun Zhao said. Are you sure? I'm very sure, Chun Zhao said calmly. First, confirm how much you're going to pay. Then $200 million, Chun Zhao said. Chun, I don't know what happened between you and Tiger, but I have to remind you. Even if you want to destroy him with a challenge like this, even if the winner takes it all, you won't get $200 million in the end, because you'll have to pay taxes. That's right. How much do I have to pay? Very high. The highest in Los Angeles is 49%. The prize money for a match like this is definitely the highest. Spend $100 million to to fix Tiger? It wasn't that Chen Zhao didn't want to spend the money, but he didn't think that Tiger was worth it. If it cost $100 million to fix Tiger, Chen Zhao would do it himself instead of wasting it. It's difficult, but it's not completely impossible, Alex said. There are many ways to recoup the cost for a match that's based on winning. First, find a place with lower taxes. Second, find more sponsors. With Tiger's fame, it's easy to get a lot of sponsors. I'll leave this to you. If my loss is less than 10%, you'll get an extra 1% commission. It can be accumulated. If I can make money, you can get more commission too. Alex's smile became even more brilliant. Deceiving her boss to get more benefits was indeed a very effective method. Of course, most of what Alex said was true. Only one sentence was false. Difficult. In fact, this kind of thing was too easy for her. When Chen Zhao said that he would use $200 million to teach his former disciple a lesson, Alex was already tempted. She was already tempted. If Chen Zhao gave her commission for this money, she would earn a lot. It was easy for rich people to earn money, just like Chen Zhao. As long as he had enough capital, he would be able to catch more and bigger fish. Chen Zhao's main goal wasn't even to earn money. But Alex was able to turn a vengeance ceremony into a commercial competition. The sponsors wouldn't have any objections either. They would spend a lot of money to sponsor Tiger's match, although it was because of Tiger's fame. If the match could definitely cause a sensation, the sponsor's investment would be multiplied. The sponsor's investment will be multiplied by several times. How to create a sensational effect in this match? That was Tiger would lose. Actually, the entire boxing world thought that Tiger wouldn't lose. He wouldn't lose no matter what opponent he faced. But if he really lost, it would shock the entire world. Bach realized that Tiger was getting more and more irritable these days. He was also clearly losing control. Yesterday, he'd seriously injured a maid who'd broken her life. If Bach hadn't spent money to shut the maid's family up, Tiger's career would have failed. In this country with a huge gap between the rich and the poor, people envied and hated the rich. Right now, Tiger was undoubtedly a rich person. If it was said that he'd beaten up a maid, he'd go from a sports hero to a sinner that everyone wanted to beat up. Bach had tried to persuade him a few times, but Tiger rejected him coldly every time. Bach could never imagine that Tagore would say something so outrageous. Chapter 2480. What troubled Bach the most wasn't Tiger's violent tendencies. It was his distrust of him and the company. Now, every time Bach said that the company could take care of him, Tiger would fiercely retort. If they could really take care of him, he wouldn't have to hide abroad. Bach didn't know how to retort because he didn't have any reason to. Medico Pavich did indeed disappoint him. In the past, Medico Pavich could solve a problem in less than 3 days. But this time, 10 days had passed, and he still didn't get any reply. There wasn't even a message. A few days ago, he went to see Medico Pavich. Medico Pavich's attitude was the same as Tiger's. Anxious, irritable, and inexplicably fearful. This caused some changes in Bach's mentality. He didn't trust his boss as much anymore. That omnipotent boss seemed to be in trouble too. Today, Tiger lost control and went crazy again. Although he didn't hit anyone, Bach heard Tiger roaring in the living room as soon as he entered the villa. The servant was facing Tiger submissively. Bach suddenly felt tired. Fortunately, the servant was scared and didn't get hit by Tiger. Bach was planning to go in and talk to Tiger while he was resting. But a phone call interrupted his thoughts. Hello, this is Bach. Who is this? Mr. Bach, are you interested in a meal? Sorry, I'm not interested in eating with strangers, Bach said and wanted to hang up. Mr. Bach, I admire your attitude, but I hope that you can have this kind of tough attitude when you're in prison. Who are you? What do you mean? Are you threatening me? Do you know what this means? Veins popped on Bach's forehead. Threatening? This wasn't the first time he'd been threatened. But he wasn't afraid. He wasn't a young man who just entered society. He'd been a manager for a long time. He'd met too many people and seen too many tricks. He wouldn't be scared by a single sentence. I found a former sprinter called Lanka Dallas. We had a good chat. I heard a lot about Mr. Bach from him. Lanka Dallas. Bach's eyelids twitched. That was a sprinter he'd coached 3 years ago. Lanka Dallas had a brief moment of glory. However, in the end, his career was ruined by drugs and various scandals. That guy's just a loser, a destitute loser. I don't know how much money you gave him, but I don't think anyone will believe him no matter what he says. Bach said disdainfully. Lanka Dallas didn't know a lot of his secrets. But as long as Lanka Dallas couldn't produce concrete evidence, everything was meaningless. How could Bach allow an abandoned pawn to have a handle on him? If there really was something on him, Lanka Dallas wouldn't be alive now. No one will believe his words, but I will create convincing evidence, especially evidence that will convince the judge. Oh, right, my name is Alex. I am now the owner of the largest law firm in Southern California. Bach's face darkened. Miss Lawyer, you shouldn't have provoked me. Mr. Bach, because I'm scared by your words, I think you'll die in prison, and you'll go to prison within 3 days. You don't need to be charged with any real crime. You know that's what I do. Then, in the next week, you'll have an accident in prison. Alex had never been a dutiful lawyer. If she was a pure lawyer, she would never be able to make a name for herself in this country. She knew very well that when you faced a villain, you needed more than the law. Miss Lawyer, do you think I have no power in prison? You picked the wrong opponent. Yes, I know you do. Los Angeles First Prison, Third Prison, Barrack Prison. But I also know that your assets are only $2 million. How much cash can you use to protect yourself? And I can buy your head with double or triple the price of your net worth, or even 10 times the price. Bach's face stiffened. After a moment of silence, he said, Miss Lawyer, I'm not worth that much money. If you give me $2 million, I will personally hand my head to you. Bach had already given in. He did have connections. He was not afraid of going to the police station or prison, because he could settle things. No matter where he went, he would be able to come out safely. But those connections were not the power that he had grasped himself. If someone offered more money to make things difficult for him, or even directly bought his head, there would be a lot of people who would be willing to work for them. Bach lived in the dark, so he knew better than anyone the horror of the dark. Then, do I have the honor to treat you to a meal? Of course, you decide the place and time. I'll treat you to a meal. Today, I've already booked a private room at Marina's restaurant. Bach's heart was a little heavy. The other party was obviously going to eat him. Otherwise, why would he book a private room at Marina's restaurant in advance? Bach had been to Marina's restaurant more than once. He knew that the rules there were quite strict. To book a reservation, one had to be at least a few days in advance. And he did not know how he had offended the big lawyer. In this country, you could go against anyone, even the president. But there were two types of people you could never offend. One was the reporters. They were the uncrowned kings. The other was the lawyers. They were gangsters, scoundrels, and villains. Even the real gangs did not want to offend lawyers. They waved the big stick of the law and knocked over the lambs one by one. He wanted to know what the female lawyer wanted. Her target was definitely not him. If the other party's target was him, they wouldn't be calling him. She would have sent him straight to prison. Bach really did not have the confidence to fight against someone who controlled an entire law firm. After all, he had too many black marks on him. Some of the black spots were even fatal. Against an entire law firm, he might not only lose his freedom, but also his precious life. So, after the first wave, Bach decisively gave in. Giving in wasn't something shameful. He would rather break than bend. He was not suitable to live in this society. Bach glanced at Tiger in the living room and silently turned to leave. Chapter 2481. On a date, the person who arrived first was the one who was psychologically weaker, even if the date wasn't romantic. Bach waited in the private room Alex had reserved for half an hour before Alex finally arrived. Bach saw that Alex was very pretty and young, but he didn't have time to admire her beauty. All he could feel was the oppressive aura that Alex exuded. Before coming, he'd done a detailed investigation on Alex. Alex had a resounding title in the legal world, the Queen of Law. Of course, she also had a record that matched her title. And what made her ascend to the throne was that she had personally sent the drug lord Faret Antonio to prison half a year ago. Bach knew about it, but he didn't know that Alex was the mastermind. But what really concerned him wasn't the case itself. It was Faret Antonio's revenge. He'd announced in court that he would take revenge on the lawyer. In the end, the next day, Faret Antonio died in prison, and he died a very, very tragic death. It definitely wasn't a government assassination. It was the work of an enemy. Far-Red Antonio's power was also uprooted in one night. Bach felt that Alex had something to do with it. "Hello, Mr. Bach." "Hello, Ms. Alex. Try the food here. It's pretty good." It wasn't Bach's first time here. He'd tasted the food here before, but today, he really didn't have an appetite. "Miss Alex, do you have any instructions for me? I heard you're Tiger's manager." "Yes." Bach perked up. He guessed that she wanted to work with him. No, if she wanted to work with him, she didn't need to threaten him. Tiger is an excellent boxer. "Ms. Alex, if you want to work with him, I'm happy to talk to you." Even though he guessed that she wasn't here to work with him, Bach still probed. Alex pushed a document in front of Bach. Bach flipped open the document and looked at it, and his brows could not help but furrow. It was evidence of Tiger's crimes. There was a lot of it, too. He couldn't tell how much was real and how much was fake. But one thing was for sure. If the evidence was in Alex's hands, she could definitely send Tiger to prison. "What do you want?" "Tiger will definitely go to jail, but before that, I think he still has value." Bach frowned. "What do you want?" Alex then threw another contract to Bach. Bach's expression changed again. This was a challenge, and the one who issued the challenge was Syndicate. Bach suddenly looked up at Alex. "Syndicate?" "It was actually Syndicate." "The Syndicate has no value." Bach said matter-of-factly. "His reputation is already bad. He can't get sponsors at all. Also, he can't beat Tiger." "That's my problem. You just need to get him to sign the contract." Bach looked at Alex in confusion, but Alex didn't give him any explanation. Bach had to weigh the pros and cons. Giving up on Tiger meant giving up on long-term benefits. That meant that he had to obtain enough benefits before the last one. But how could he get enough benefits from Tiger? It was not easy. Bach had only accumulated a little more than 2 million USD after all these years of cheating and cheating. He had high hopes for Tiger. As long as he didn't cause any trouble, Tiger's future was limitless. If he decided to give up on Tiger now, he had to make sure that Tiger lost in the challenge. If he only relied on the commission, it wouldn't be enough to satisfy his appetite. Only by betting on him to lose in the underground lottery would he be able to obtain enough benefits. But how? It wasn't easy. But if he didn't agree, Bach was worried that Alex would target him. In view of Alex's past achievements, she was nothing in front of her. But Bach didn't want to give up on long-term benefits. "My boss will take out 200 million USD as the prize pool for this challenge," Alex said. Bach was shocked. "Your boss is? Don't ask what you shouldn't." Alex looked at Bach coldly. Bach couldn't help but mutter. He looked down at the contract before him. He suddenly saw how the prize pool would be split. The winner would take it all. Bach couldn't help but look up. He was sure that no matter who his opponent was, he wouldn't waste 200 million. The 200 million was bait, but he didn't plan on letting anyone take it. "What do you want me to do?" Bach asked. "Let Tiger sign this contract. I also need an authorization. I know many rich people. I can use Tiger's name to ask them for sponsorship. You can also find as many sponsors as you can." Bach nodded silently. Then he asked, "What do I get after this?" Bach didn't care about Tiger's life or death. He only cared about how much this challenge could bring him. 2% of the net profit, Alex said. Sure. Bach finally made up his mind. 2% of the net profit was just the minimum of 200 million. After deducting the taxes, he would still get more than $1 million. If he could pull in more sponsors, then he could live happily for the rest of his life without doing anything. Moreover, he could obtain more profits from the underground gambling. Of course, the underground lottery was risky. Working with Alex was basically risk-free. Because he didn't put in a single cent, the only difference was how much he earned. Even if Alex's plan failed, he wouldn't lose anything. But it was hard to say for the underground lottery, although he believed that Alex definitely had her own plan. But who could say for sure in a competition like this? Plus, he knew very well how terrifying Tiger was, especially after Bach provided him with the devil potion he got from a special source. Tiger's current strength was already inhuman. How could Syndicate beat Tiger? The instant kill last time was enough to show the difference in strength. Also, don't let Tiger know that it's Syndicate who challenged him. Why? If he finds out it's Syndicate, he'll definitely reject. Why? Because he knows who's supporting Syndicate. Bach's eyes flashed. He remembered that Tiger kept saying it was his teacher. Chapter 2482. Tiger's teacher finally made his move. He finally fought back. Bach suddenly thought of an idea that only benefited himself. The grudge between Tiger's teacher and Tiger. They could solve it themselves. It had nothing to do with him anyway. It didn't matter even if Tiger was sent to jail by his teacher. As long as he got enough benefits, it was fine. No matter how powerful Tiger's teacher was, he couldn't possibly know that Tiger was completely different from before. So, Tiger had a higher chance of winning this battle. So, he should make this battle happen. But in the underground lottery, he should bet on Tiger. Thinking of this, Bach smiled. I'll think of a way to get Tiger to sign the contract. That's for the best. Alex finally smiled and nodded. Deep in the mountains outside London, England, there was only a muddy mountain road here. Coupled with the continuous rain, the road became even more difficult to walk. Mediko Pavich walked alone on the mountain road. The equipment on his body did not save him energy. Instead, it required him to expend more energy to carry the equipment. But it was necessary. After all, the nights here were very cold. The fog in the mountains couldn't be dispelled. One never knew when one's feet would slip. He didn't have to come here himself. But Hamson and the crown of immortality he'd created had completely gone out of control. Just the day before yesterday, he lost contact with everyone from the crown of immortality. This made him feel an unprecedented sense of danger. He needed to get rid of this danger. He needed to regain control of this power. So, he came here again. Just then, the fog was suddenly blown away by a cold wind. Mediko Pavich's eyes suddenly opened up. It was a rough village. Dozens of small, or even shabby houses. There was also a not-so-small, open field. He could vaguely see people working in the field. Mediko Pavich walked with heavy steps, but his body and mind were completely relaxed. Finally here, he was finally back here. Just then, an old man walked over. The old man was draped in coarse hemp, which was trimmed crudely. Mediko, you're back again. Yes, Mr. Mansuk. Mansuk was the second generation of this place, and was second only to Hamson, who left this place. Hamson chose to leave while Mansuko chose to stay. It wasn't because Mansuk was willing to live a normal life, but because he knew that if he left this place, he would still be under Hamson. If he chose to stay, he would become the leader of this place. In the words of the Chinese, it was better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Mr. Mansuk, I need your help, Mediko said. Hamson can't help you. I think we're no longer collaborators. He broke his promise to me. Madek Pavich said, I don't need you to deal with him. What I need is to establish a new partner. Mansuk silently raised his head. His eyes were shining with brilliance without a trace of decaying gloominess. Of course, he knew that the outside world was more interesting than this small mountain village. Of course, he didn't want to stay in this remote and desolate place forever and be trapped here for the rest of his life. He didn't choose to go out the first time because Hamson went out first. But now, the second chance was in front of him. This time, he desired it more than the first time. In the few years that Hamson had been away, he had completely mastered this place. So, he no longer feared Hamson. He instilled his will into everyone here. Mansuk looked at Mediko. I'm more reliable than Hamson. I need a stronger guarantee. I've already been betrayed once. I can make a contract, Mansuk said. A contract that can't be violated, and I can make Hamson pay for his betrayal. Mediko raised his brows, but he quickly returned to normal. I don't need it. You're all family. There's no need to fight over this. No, it's necessary, Mansuk said. Hamson took most of the elites with him, Mateko said. Of course, he wanted to make Hamson pay, but Hamson took most of the main force. He didn't think Mansuk and the people he recruited could pose any threat to Hamson. He did take away the young children, but he couldn't take away everything. What do you mean? Mediko asked in confusion. Mansuk's face showed a proud expression. After Hamson left, I started to investigate why my father chose to settle here. A year ago, I finally found a reason. Mediko couldn't help but look at Mansuk. It seemed like he had made a great discovery. You can't imagine what's hidden here. Can you tell me? Let me take you there to have a look. Madiko Pavich was also very curious. Where did Mansuk's confidence come from? Why was he beaming with joy? He followed Munsuk's footsteps and came to a damp cave. Halfway through the cave, the walls suddenly turned into purple crystals. The purple crystals shone faintly, allowing them to see the situation along the way without the need for lighting. They walked all the way to the deepest part of the cave, where there was a huge purple crystal. There seemed to be a few figures inside the purple crystal. As an ordinary person, you can't feel the magic aura inside. What's this? Also, is there something inside? Madeko Pavich asked curiously. Extraordinary, unclean witch, mortal enemy of the Supreme King, Munsuk said. I'm not a wizard. I don't know what these names mean. She's King Arthur's half-sister, and also the legendary wizard Merlin's mortal enemy. She's Morgan Le Fay. Mansuk said, in the legends of our clan used to be Wizard Merlin's servants. Our ancestors followed Wizard Merlin, and our fathers returned here to live in seclusion because Wizard Merlin's lifelong enemy is here. Morgan Le Fay. Madiko touched the purple crystal. There seem to be a few figures inside. Those are her followers. Is she sealed now? Nine Heavens God King. Chapter 2483. Mansuk didn't answer Madiko Pavich's question directly. Instead, he reached out to a protruding corner of the amethyst and forcefully pulled it off. The corner of the amethyst was directly pulled off. Mansuk placed the amethyst fragment in front of his nose and took a deep breath. The amethyst fragment immediately turned into purple smoke and was sucked into Mansuk's nose. Mansuk seemed to be enjoying an extreme pleasure. He let out a soft moan, and his body slightly trembled. It was a feeling of extreme pleasure that made people unable to stop even if they wanted to. At this time, the amethyst fragment in Mansuk's hand was only half its original size. Mansuk looked at Madiko Pavich and stretched out his hand. Do you want to try it? I promise you'll love this feeling. What's the use of this? Don't you want to feel the joy of magic? The joy of magic? Madiko Pavich looked at Mansuk in confusion. It can let you temporarily gain magic power and power. You mean it can let me master magic? That's right. Mansuk nodded. This isn't a seal. It's the fruit of self-wisdom. What's the fruit of self-wisdom? When the ancient wizards' magic power, wisdom, and knowledge reached a certain level, they would be limited. This was the limit that God gave to humans. It was impossible to surpass or break through. The reason why humans are humans and gods are gods is because of the existence of the limit. Mansuk said, but there are still some mortals with supreme wisdom and talent who try to break through the limit given by God. Some succeeded and became a god, while others failed. The result is self-evident. There's another kind of person who doesn't forcefully break through the limit of God. They choose another method, which is to transform themselves into the fruit of self-wisdom. Morgan Le Fay is one of them. Mansuk continued. Morgan Le Fay was King Arthur's sister, but she didn't have the right to inherit the throne, so she had always been against King Arthur and Wizard Merlin. Morgan Le Fay had the upper hand most of the time, but she couldn't break through her own fate. Humans can't get rid of the shackles of fate. Only God has the freedom to choose. So Morgan Le Fay had to become a god in order to counterattack. Thus, she created this method to transform herself into the fruit of wisdom, also known as shedding God. Wizard Merlin also knew that if Morgan Le Fay succeeded, it would be the destruction of King Arthur and his royal authority. Thus, he did everything he could to stop Morgan Le Fay's god-molting spell. However, even Wizard Merlin couldn't stop this spell, so he thought of another method, which was to slow down the completion time of this spell. Is this amethyst hard to destroy? Madeko Pavich asked doubtfully. Just now, Mansuk had clearly broken the amethyst with a casual twist. It didn't seem to be indestructible. Take a look. Mansuk pointed at the spot where the amethyst was broken off and found that the amethyst had grown back. When I broke off a corner, it was equivalent to using my own magical knowledge to replace it. Mansuk said, Back then, Wizard Merlin was the same. No matter how much he destroyed the Fruit of Wisdom, he didn't really destroy it. Instead, he replaced it. He used his own magical knowledge to replace Morgan Le Fay's God-molting spell. In the end, he could only choose another method to stop Morgan Le Fay. If I keep destroying it, will I be able to release Morgan Le Fay? Maybe, Mansick said in an uncertain tone. Then, do you want to release her? Of course not. After all, she's a legendary wizard. You can't guarantee that when you face her, you'll be able to control her and not be controlled by her. Then, why did you bring me here? Hamson took away the most outstanding wizard. Under normal circumstances, even if I gather all the remaining people, we won't be able to defeat him. The only way to defeat him is with her, Morgan Le Fay. As long as we bring her with us, we'll have unlimited power. Then we'll bring her with us. That's our biggest problem now, Mansick said. This purple crystal is too big. Unless we can find 20 strengthening spiritualists, we won't be able to move such a huge and heavy purple crystal. Then what? We can only rely on your manpower and resources. Can other spells work? Only strengthening magicians can. Other spells can't be used on this purple crystal. Madiko Pavich thought about it and said, I can't do it alone, but are you sure you want me to bring people from the outside in? I can bring people out first. Then you can bring people in and move the things out. No problem. Gaia, how's Syndicate's training? Not bad. After you strengthened his body, his adaptability is very high. He's even better than Tiger. The difference between the two was very big. After all, from the optimization of the perfect potion to the simplification of the training method, the effect was much better than before. Syndicate's physical fitness was also very good. Syndicate looked like he was already in his 30s. His competitive level seemed to be declining. In fact, a person's physical fitness was at its best when they were 30 to 33. This was because a person's stamina, explosiveness, and reflexes had all reached a balance after a long period of training. People at this stage had the highest level of balance. Therefore, many athletes at this age might seem to have an obvious decline in their best sports, but it wasn't actually a decline in physical fitness. Instead, it was the improvement of the human body's overall ability. Syndicate was like this. His physical fitness had been adjusted to the best. Under these circumstances, the strengthening was naturally more effective than a young tiger. I'll go take a look, Chun Zhao said. Chun Zhao drove to Gaia's gym. After greeting a few trainers along the way, he went straight to Gaia's private gym. As soon as he entered, he heard a heavy and sharp whistle. Faster, faster, faster. Your punches aren't fast enough, and they aren't heavy enough. Faster, heavier. Chapter 2484. Hinga attacked Gaia crazily. He was practically using his full strength on the stage to attack. Gaia, on the other hand, had a watertight defense against him. No matter how fast his punches were or how strong he was, he couldn't move Gaia's shield. It felt as if the board was blocking the wall. No, even if it was a wall, he could shatter it. However, when his fist landed on the baffle, he felt as if his fist had landed on an iron wall. Hinga also realized that not only had his stamina recovered, but it was even better than before. He was stronger, faster, and more sensitive. If it was his previous opponent, he was confident that he could beat the crap out of his opponent within 3 rounds. But facing Gaia, he felt like he could be KO'd at any time. And this was not just his conjecture. Gaia would always end the day like this during every training session. This way of ending humiliated Xinjia greatly. It would destroy the confidence he'd just built up. Chun, you're here. Gaia turned to look at Chun, but then he yelled at Hinga. Continue. Don't be lazy. Indeed, Syndicate wanted to take a break with Chun Zhao's arrival. Gaia was definitely a demon coach. Okay, let him rest. Chun Zhao glanced at Hinga. Then, okay. The moment Gaia agreed, Hinga's hair stood on end. It's here. Danger is here. The almost instinctive reaction made Hinga feel the approaching danger. Hinga immediately went into a defensive position. Gaia glanced at Hinga and suddenly smiled. Not bad. You can predict danger in advance. This time, Gaia didn't punch. Instead, he walked toward Chun Zhao. Just then, Syndicate said, "Boss, I'm not as strong as Miss Gaia, but I think I can beat Tiger. I can beat him until he's looking for his teeth on the floor." "No, you can't." Chun Zhao shook his head. "No, I can." Hinga still firmly believed that he could. Suddenly, Gaia turned around abruptly and rushed to Syndicate's front in 3 steps. Whoosh! Hinga did not even have time to raise his arms, and Gaia's fist was already inches away. Before Gaia's fist could even touch Hinga, Hinga could already feel the terrifying pressure. However, this time, Gaia's fist deviated from Hinga's face and passed by his side. Sniff! Xi and Jia heard a sharp whistling sound. If this punch landed on his body, he would either die or be crippled. "You'd probably need to be twice as strong as you are now to barely block that punch," Gaia said. That's roughly what Tiger showed back then. But since Tiger might not have used his full strength back then, he might have held back some of it. So, even if you're as strong as him, it's hard to guarantee that you'll win. "That's right," Chun Zhao said. "I don't need to barely maintain arena. I need your absolute power to crush me." How could I be twice as strong? Tiger can't be that strong. Neither can I." "No, you can," Gaia said calmly. "When your boss treated you a few days ago, he also stimulated your potential. You should feel that your physical fitness has been improving by leaps and bounds. What you can feel and what you can use is only a portion of your potential. When you truly grasp all of your strength, that will be the time for you to step into the ring," Gaia said indifferently. Potential? Hinga had indeed felt the changes in himself. He had also guessed that the training Chun Zhao had given him over the past few days had brought about changes. Gaia's words only confirmed his guess. What he really did not expect was that Gaia actually told him that he had not fully grasped the potential that he had stimulated. "What do I need to do to fully grasp it?" "Get beaten up," Gaia said. "Did Tiger receive the same training in the past?" "Yes." "Then, okay." Hearing this, the resistance in Hinga's heart finally dissipated. "Since he can endure it, so can I. I can also receive harsher training as long as it doesn't kill me." "That's all for today," Chun Zhao said. "Hinga, your daughter is out of the isolation ward. You could go see her today." "Huh? She's out of the isolation ward? Is it okay to leave so soon?" Hinga was pleasantly surprised when he heard that his daughter had left the isolation ward, but then he had a new worry. "I checked her before I came. She's recovering well. She's basically like a normal person now. She hasn't been discharged yet because there's still a period of observation. Also, she needs to come into contact with the outside air. It's not best for her to stay in the isolation ward. You're the doctor. Whatever you say." Hinga also knew that Chun Zhao had not slacked at all when it came to taking care of his daughter. Hinga was still grateful to Chun Zhao, even after the torture Chun Zhao had given him in the past few days. "Boss, Gaia is giving me special training now. Will my daughter be in danger?" "Someone's helping to take care of her," Chun Zhao said. "No bad guys can get close to your daughter." After changing his clothes, Hinga got into Chun Zhao's car. When they arrived at the hospital, Hinga stood before his daughter's ward and took a deep breath, adjusting his emotions. "What? You don't want to see your daughter?" "No," Hinga said with a bitter smile. "I just think that I'm very useless as a father." "Then don't disappoint me. Don't let your daughter lose her father," Chun Zhao said indifferently. Hinga felt that Chun Zhao was hinting at something. He thought of Tiger, Chun Zhao's student. Now he had become a target that Chun Zhao needed to eliminate. Chun Zhao also did not want to be betrayed again. The moment Hinga pushed open the door, he saw that the walls were pink. The corridor was not spacious because there were many dolls and dolls on the ground and in the corners. This was purely a children's room. It was specially made for children. Of course, they were also children from rich families. Seeing Hinga, the girl on the bed immediately called out in excitement, "Daddy, Jickle!" Hinga went up and hugged his daughter. It was a sense of satisfaction that he had never felt before. Jickle had a serious heart condition since birth. However, he did not have enough money. Moreover, Jickle was still young and not suitable for surgery. Therefore, he had missed the heart source several times. A suitable age, money, and heart source could not be found at any time. Every time Jickle had a heart attack, Hinga did not know if she could survive it. Chun Zhao's appearance had undoubtedly solved his worries. 9 Heaven's Divine King. Chapter 2485. Jekyll saw Chun Zhao standing at the entrance. "Hi," Chun Zhao greeted. "I remember you. You're the doctor who operated on me that day." Jekyll's eyes were filled with light. Chun Zhao nodded with a smile. "Little guy, I thought you were asleep that day, because I saw that dark-skinned fellow beside Uncle that day. I remember it very clearly." Chun Zhao was taken aback. Dark people? Chun Zhao remembered that he was the only one in the surgery room that day. Where did that black guy come from? But Chun Zhao suddenly remembered that he'd asked Blackie to be there too. If there was an accident, he'd ask Blackie to help. Did she see Blackie? Chun Zhao couldn't help but re-evaluate Jekyll. Jekyll didn't have any magical aura. Plus, she hadn't awakened either. But why could she see Blackie? If what she saw was Blackie. After visiting Jekyll, Singa's mood became better too. "Boss, I want to train one more night. Is Miss Gaia free? If not, you can go to her gym yourself," Chun Zhao said. "Also, take a taxi back." Chun Zhao left Singa at the hospital and drove back. On the way, he received a call from Ampa. "Mr. Chun, are you free?" "Yes." "Can you come to my house?" "Now." "Yes." "Sure." Chun Zhao arrived at Ampa's house. Cliff and Ampa were waiting for him at the door. "Mr. Cliff, Ms. Ampa, hello." "Hello, Mr. Chun." Cliff walked up and shook hands with Chun Zhao. "Please come in." The kid made a cup of tea for Chun Zhao. "Mr. Chun, I heard from Ampa that you want to open a kindergarten. Is that right?" "It's not that I want to open one. I want you to open one. I'll pay for it." I don't care about profits." "Of course, I don't mind if you use it to earn more income. I want 60% of the profits. I'll pay for all the investments. The venue and classes need to be redesigned and rebuilt." Chun Zhao told them all his requirements. "Mr. Chun, the new venue and classes will cost more money. I don't think it's necessary. Our house plus the front and backyard is enough to open a kindergarten." "No, it's necessary." Chun Zhao's attitude was firm. "You should have the habit of making potions, right? Plus, I can smell that you've dumped most of the potion residue into the pit and buried it. You also have a lot of magic materials at home. These are dangerous for children." Chun Zhao paused. "My request is that there are no magic potions or materials in the kindergarten." Amber and Clive exchanged glances. They obviously knew why Chun Zhao made this request. After all, something had happened to his daughter here before. "I know you guys don't want the same thing to happen again. I don't want it to happen either. There are some things that children can't control. Even if you tell them that those things are dangerous, they will still try. That's why I only have one request. Prevent children from coming into contact with those things at the root." "Do I need to quit my job at Dashin Elementary School?" Clive asked. "It's up to you. If Ms. Ampa can handle it alone, you don't have to worry about it. Of course, you can also hire a few kindergarten teachers according to your needs. I don't care about the operation and management of the kindergarten. Just give me 60% of the net income every year." "Mr. Chun, how big are you planning to start?" Clive asked. "How big do you think you can manage?" "No more than 30 children. Clive and I can be the kindergarten teachers at the same time, but we need at least one more kindergarten teacher, one security guard, and one cleaner." "Give me a number. How much do you need?" "Mr. Chun, you'll be responsible for the construction of the venue and classroom. We'll take care of the other preparations and staff recruitment. You need to give us $50,000 as a starting capital. Here's a check for $100,000. Buy what you think you should buy, but I'll check the accounts." Clive accepted the check without hesitation. "Clive, you know about the fire at Dashin Elementary School 4 days ago, right?" "I know. I suspect that a spiritualist started the fire. Are there any other spiritualists in Dashin Elementary School other than you? Do your children count?" They don't." "Then I don't think so. Unless they're far more powerful than me. There's no way I wouldn't know." Opening a kindergarten didn't require too much investment. Chun Zhao could first buy a large empty apartment in town. After some renovation, he could use it as a kindergarten. Then, he would buy a small field for the children to run and play. As for the other things, he could buy them in the supermarket in Mountain Town. Chun Zhao wanted Clive and Ampa to open a kindergarten. Not only could Sindora and Mara go to school nearby, but Jerlin and Larissa would also have to go to school in the future. Chen Zhao didn't want them to go so far away. To Chen Zhao, even 10 kilometers from home was a long distance for his children. When he got home, Fei Lai and the children were already back. The underlings had also prepared dinner. After dinner, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai watched the stars on the rooftop and chatted about their own matters. Below them were the sounds of children playing. Everything seemed so peaceful and beautiful. At this moment, a figure silently approached Mirror Lake Manor. Chen Zhao said to Fei Lai beside him, "I'm going out for a while. Go." With that, Chen Zhao landed from the rooftop and disappeared into the night. It was Murphy who approached Mirror Lake Manor. "Boss, what is it?" "Boss, 2 cows died on the pasture in the past 2 days." "Huh? How did they die? Of illness? Or were they bitten by wolves?" "They were probably bitten by something, but I don't know what exactly," Murphy said. "Judging from the wounds, it should be a large carnivore. The holes in the carcasses are quite serious. It seems like that thing had a big appetite." "Where are the carcasses? Take me there." Chen Zhao's Mirror Lake Manor was connected to the pasture. Chen Zhao's family didn't herd, so the cows, sheep, and horses were all free. Occasionally, some people would come to steal, but most of the time, Murphy would catch them. But this time, Murphy actually found out that 2 cows were missing the next day. This meant that the animal was very mysterious. 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 2486. Murphy brought Chen Zhao to the cow's carcass. The carcass started from the neck all the way to the abdomen. It was missing almost 1,000 kilograms of meat. Chen Zhao examined the carcass. There aren't any beast scratches on the cow. If a beast attacked the cow would definitely fight back. Then there would be large scratches during the fight. But there weren't any wounds on the cow. That was the biggest abnormality. Also, the only large carnivores here were wolves. Only a pack of wolves could kill a cow. Other small carnivores like lynx and puma couldn't kill cows. Plus, they couldn't eat so much meat. Chen Zhao couldn't help but think of the crypt demons. But then he thought about it carefully. The right side of Mirror Lake Manor was against the forest and connected to the mountains where the crypt demons were. But he had a good relationship with the crypt demons. They wouldn't attack his cows rashly. If they asked for beef, they could contact Chen Zhao. They wouldn't attack Chen Zhao's ranch stealthily. Plus, Chen Zhao would go to the crypt demons' nest every month to trade with them. This place was also very far from the crypt demon's nest. Crypt demons hated light too. It would take at least a day to go back and forth here. So, it could basically be ruled out that it was done by the crypt demons. But since it wasn't a crypt demon or a wolf pack, then what animal could have done it? Wild boars? That wasn't right. Wild boars were omnivores, but they wouldn't attack large animals like cows. Since there were no scratches on the cow, it could only have been killed in one blow. Only humans could kill a cow in one blow, right? But there were no traces of human activity at the scene, not even on the cow. Plus, if it was done by humans, they would need a reason. People had indeed stolen cows in the past, but their goal was to sell them for money. They didn't kill for the sake of killing. Chen Zhao squatted beside the cow's carcass and flipped through some of the wounds. "Can you tell what animal bite marks are?" Murphy also squatted beside the cow's carcass. The canine teeth are very powerful. They can bite through bones directly. "Where's the other cow's carcass?" "Where is it?" "Not far." "Boss, I'll take you there." The other cow wasn't far from the first carcass. There was less than 300 meters between them. The wounds and marks were exactly the same as the first cow's corpse. The 2 cows were attacked around here. Chen Zhao compared the positions of the 2 corpses. Then he looked behind him. Comparing the 2 positions in a straight line, the thing that attacked the herd should have come from this direction. Chen Zhao walked to the edge of the forest. At the moment, the forest seemed rather dark under the night sky. Chen Zhao walked into the forest. However, after walking for 20 minutes, he didn't find anything valuable. There were no signs of a vehicle or anything else. Therefore, humans should be excluded. There was no way a human could have come here on foot. After all, those who entered this place from the outside must have come from the periphery. However, they would have to walk for 20 to 30 kilometers a large portion of which was a sandy desert, or from the direction of Mirror Lake Manor. But if he came from Mirror Lake Manor, there was no way he wouldn't know. And the chances of a stranger crossing Mirror Lake Manor were slim to none. What could come here without a sound, and then kill the cow in such a short period of time before it could even resist? Chun Zhao could almost eliminate the possibility of an animal, but the possibility of a human wasn't high either. Unless the person drove a helicopter here and did as he pleased, then took the helicopter and left. If that was really the case, how bored must the person be? The person's goal was to make trouble for Chun Zhao. However, the loss to Chun Zhao was almost negligible. There was another possibility. The person was a spiritualist. His goal, ability, and strength were unknown. Chun Zhao thought of the person who'd set fire to Mountain Elementary School. Could it be the same person who attacked the herd this time? It was indeed possible. Have there been any strangers in town recently? Didn't notice. Okay, be careful these few days. You don't have to work night shifts anymore. Go out with Rebecca for a few days. Chun Zhao didn't want Murphy to take the risk. He didn't know if the person was human, what their goal was, or what strength they had. Although Murphy was a vampire, he didn't seem to have grown since Chun Zhao first met him. He had no chance of winning against most spiritualists. Chun Zhao had heard from his mom that a vampire's strength needed time to accumulate. Murphy, on the other hand, was too young. He was still the lowest level of vampires. Boss, you won't fire me, right? Murphy panicked. Now that he was living with Rebecca, he knew the importance of money. Rebecca, on the other hand, spent money without restraint. If he lost this job, he really didn't know how to live. Perhaps he could find another job, but he knew how high his salary was. Would he be able to get his current salary if he found another job outside? He doubted it. No, I just want you to rest for a few days. You can't handle this. Boss, I can handle it, Murphy said firmly. I'll find a culprit and crush his balls. Okay, you don't have to handle it. Go out for a few days. If you don't have enough money, I'll sponsor you. Chun Zhao turned and left. Murphy stood there in a daze. Chun Zhao didn't have any other thoughts. After all, he promised Murphy's mom to take care of him. He couldn't really let Murphy face unknown dangers. But Murphy didn't think so. Because Chun Zhao wouldn't let him take responsibility, he felt that he had lost his value. The thing a person was most afraid of was losing his value. Murphy's eyes were filled with determination. After returning home, Rebecca was confused to see that Murphy was back so early. Murphy usually worked at night. Why was he back so early today? Murphy, how come you're back so early today? Aren't you going to look after the ranch today? Something happened at the ranch. Boss won't let me look after it anymore. What? You lost your job? Boss told me to rest for a few days. He won't let me work before the problem is solved. How can you do that? Rebecca knew better than Murphy how important his job was now. After all, Murphy was now in a high-paying job. $30,000 a month was enough for the two of them to live very, very comfortably. However, if he lost this job, it would be almost impossible for Murphy to find another one that was the same as his. Chapter 2487. This was a very scary thing for a family that was used to a high income. Once the family's main source of income was cut off, the family would fall apart at an alarming rate. Rebecca thought that Murphy was really going to lose his job. Murphy, we can't let this happen. What should I do? Catch the guy who attacked the cows. Rebecca said, You're a vampire. Murphy suddenly stood up. That thing killed a cow for 2 days in a row and ate more than half of it. This means that this guy has a huge appetite. Maybe he can't help but come back to steal the cows tonight. Then what are you waiting for? Go catch that guy. At Rebecca's urging, Murphy hurried out. Murphy was used to the darkness. In the past 2 years, he had been nocturnal almost every day. In the past, he had been afraid of the darkness, but now he was no longer afraid. Murphy found a familiar place to settle down. Not far away were the cows. Under the night sky, the cows were very quiet. They were bunched up together. This kind of group activity could help them scare off the predators. During Murphy's time as a night patroller here, he had at most driven away the predators who came here to hunt. However, those predators were only a few North American wolves or cougars. This kind of predator could be considered as a second or third level predator. Most of their prey were sheep. They couldn't hunt herds of cows or horses, and Murphy wasn't difficult to deal with. The cougars basically ran away when they saw Murphy. Only the wolves were a little tricky. However, as long as they were beaten up by Murphy, the wolves would also run away dejectedly. Even after nearly 2 years, Murphy had become familiar with several nearby wolf packs. Occasionally, Murphy would throw a sheep to the wolves. Murphy waited until 3 in the morning, but there was still no movement from the cows. But at this moment, Murphy heard the howls of wolves coming from the forest in the distance. That was the wolves' cry for help. Murphy suddenly perked up and jumped out of the treetop, skimming across the night sky. Although Murphy hadn't fully awakened his vampire bloodline, but some abilities were gradually awakening. For example, gliding in the night sky, and an extraordinary physique. Murphy tapped lightly on the next treetop and flew more than 20 meters away again. At this moment, he was close to flying. However, this ability could only be used at night. Once it was daytime, he seemed to have lost the ability to glide. Murphy's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, he had already traveled 2 kilometers. At this moment, the howls of the wolves became louder and louder. Murphy swooped down. From midair, Murphy could see the situation at the scene. An unknown beast that was close to 3 meters tall was fighting with a pack of wolves. It was more of a massacre than a struggle. There were already 7 or 8 wolves lying on the ground. The beast was still unscathed. Its black fur made it look glossy in the night. There were more than 10 wild wolves around them. The beast was about the same size as a lion or tiger, but it looked more powerful, faster, and more ferocious. These wild wolves were a combination of several wolf packs. Murphy recognized them. To be precise, he remembered their smell. The wolves also remembered Murphy. Therefore, when Murphy appeared, they did not attack him. Murphy pounced on the beast. The beast, which had its back to Murphy, seemed to sense the danger behind it. It suddenly turned around and bit at Murphy with its bloody mouth. Murphy was shocked. The beast's reaction was too fast. Murphy had no doubt that its bloody mouth could bite off his neck in one bite. Moreover, Murphy was falling at this time. There was no way for him to adjust his direction so quickly in such a short distance. Suddenly, a wild wolf pounced on the beast's neck. The wild wolf's whole body was hanging on the beast's neck, trying its best to push the beast's bloody mouth away. The beast slapped the wild wolf hanging on its neck to the ground with its paw. It pressed the wild wolf to the ground with its paw and opened its bloody mouth directly. Whimper, the wild wolf wailed. Its body spasmed twice and lost its strength. Blood splattered on Murphy's face. In an instant, Murphy's eyes turned red. Huh! A low growl came out of Murphy's mouth. His fangs were exposed uncontrollably. Hiss! Murphy's figure flashed. He passed by the beast at an unprecedented speed. Roar! A bloody mark was left on the beast's head. It was finally injured, but at the same time, it also aroused its ferocity. The beast roared and pounced on Murphy. Murphy didn't dodge the pounce and was directly pressed under the beast. Murphy instinctively clasped the beast's abdomen from below with his limbs. The beast tried to attack Murphy with its claws or fangs, but just couldn't touch Murphy. At this moment, the wild wolf also launched its final attack. They went up and directly bit various parts of the beast's body with their teeth. Although the wild wolf's fangs couldn't break the beast's skin, it still used its own way to restrain this crazy beast. At this moment, Murphy directly clasped the beast's neck with his fangs. The beast felt the pain and began to roll wildly on the ground. It tried to rub Murphy off its body, but Murphy had already used all his strength on this at this moment. The paralyzing poison seeped out of the fangs and began to seep into the beast's body. The beast's struggle became weaker and weaker, but Murphy couldn't stop at this moment. He greedily sucked every drop of the beast's blood. When the last drop of blood was sucked dry, Murphy tore off the beast's neck. Roar! Murphy looked up to the sky and roared. The remaining dozen wild wolves also began to bite the beast crazily. They were venting their anger and avenging their companions at the same time. Soon, these wild wolves dismembered the beast. Murphy gradually calmed down. At this moment, Murphy saw something glowing red in the wreckage of the beast. What is this? Murphy picked up the thing and found that it was an electronic device. This electronic device was very small, only the size of a fingernail, and it was it that was flashing red. At the same time, in a spherical building, countless staff in white coats were busy here. The vital signs of evolution number 6 have disappeared. How is that possible? There are no creatures that can threaten evolutionaries there. The reason is unknown. Can you find the location? Yes, the locator is not destroyed. Immediately lock the location of evolution number 6 and find out the reason. Chapter 2488. Murphy. Rebecca saw Murphy, who was covered in blood, stumbling through the door. She immediately rushed forward to help him. Rebecca was frightened. She never seen Murphy like this. Rebecca laid Murphy down on the sofa and peeled off his shirt to check his injuries. But she realized that there were no wounds on him. It wasn't Murphy's blood? Then whose bloodstain was this? Rebecca suddenly felt that this was a tricky situation. Murphy didn't have any wounds, but he seemed to be in a bad state. Should she call the doctor? Or Chun Zhao? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, there was a whistling sound outside. What's that sound? Rebecca pulled open the curtains and saw a beam of light shining down from the night sky. Helicopter? Rebecca was a little surprised. Just then, 4 rails dropped from the helicopter. 4 fully armed gunmen descended from the sky. They were all wearing heat-sensing devices. Confirmed. The tracking device is in this room. There are 2 vital signs in the room. 1 female, 1 male. The male's body temperature is abnormal. From the device, the 4 gunmen realized that Rebecca's body temperature was normal, while Murphy's was obviously lower than normal. Confirmed. The 2 people in the room don't have any weapons. Prepare for a frontal assault. Rebecca was scared out of her wits. After a moment of panic, she suddenly realized that she had to find reinforcements. Rebecca hurriedly unlocked her phone, but in her panic, she pressed the wrong button several times. Clang. Just then, the floor-to-ceiling window in front of Rebecca was smashed. 2 metal cans were thrown in. Then, thick smoke spewed out of them. Cough, cough. Rebecca inhaled a lot of smoke. Then, a strong arm pressed her to the ground. The female target is under control. The male target is also... Bang, what happened? Where's the male? Kay's in trouble. He's dead. What exactly happened? Whoosh, dank. The second gunner was grabbed by the hand that stretched out from the fog and pulled into the fog. Dank. Hear the answer. Hear the answer. Suddenly, the gunman heard something rolling on the ground. He looked down and saw Dank's head. This gave him a fright. Ben Rowe, fire at will. That man is still here. He killed Guy and Dank. While the gunner was informing his teammates, he did not notice a pair of blood-red eyes staring at him from the darkness. Ah! With a scream, the gunman holding Rebecca was the only one left in the room. The gunner was a little frightened. He hadn't even seen anyone, but his 3 fully armed and well-trained teammates had already disappeared. What was wrong with the man in the room? Don't move. Come out, or your woman will. The gunslinger had no choice but to use Rebecca to threaten Murphy. Who? Suddenly, a figure flashed through the thick smoke. The gunman immediately pulled out his gun and fired. But in the next instant, the machine gun in the gunner's hand was grabbed by another hand. How is this possible? The gunman was shocked. How could a person who was just a few meters away suddenly appear in front of him? Since the machine gun's body was grabbed, the gunner could not change direction even if he wanted to. However, the gunman was well-trained after all. He immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Murphy behind him. However, the moment he turned around, he saw a bloody mouth coming at him. Right now, the pilot on the helicopter kept calling for his 4 teammates, but there was still no response. Clearly, something had happened to them in the room. You don't need to call for them anymore. The pilot suddenly heard a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw that someone had appeared in the back seat of the helicopter without him knowing. The person's face was covered in blood, making him look especially terrifying. You. Beep, 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 boom. The helicopter crashed. Mr. Chun, something happened to Murphy. Something happened? What happened? Hurry and come over. The police will be here soon. Police? No matter what, don't answer any questions before the lawyer and I arrive, Chun Zhao said immediately. Got it. Chun Zhao did not understand what had happened. He could only inform Alex hurriedly and rushed to Murphy's house overnight. When he arrived, he saw a burning helicopter in front of Murphy's house. The police had already cordoned off the place. Rebecca was sitting in front of the house, shivering on the ground with a sheet draped over her. Sir, you can't go in here. The police stopped Chun Zhao, who was about to walk in. Kid, are you from Mountain Town's police station? Who are you? The young officer looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. I sponsored the construction of Mountain Town's police station. Your car, air conditioner, and even your overtime pay are all sponsored by me. The young officer immediately understood who Chun Zhao was. Mr. Chun, the young officer said helplessly, LAPD has taken over this place. I can only guard the perimeter. Don't worry. I know someone from LAPD, but no one will blame you. Even if someone does, I'll help you deal with it. Chun Zhao patted the young officer's shoulder and pulled open the cordon. The young officer did not dare to offend Chun Zhao. After all, half of his income was provided by Chun Zhao. His father and brother also worked at Chun Zhao's brewery. His brother's child also studied at the school Chun Zhao sponsored. Making things difficult for Chun Zhao was making things difficult for himself. Chun Zhao strutted over to Rebecca. Rebecca, where's Murphy? Who are you? Why are you here? The officer beside Rebecca looked at Chun Zhao with a scrutinizing gaze. Chun Zhao did not answer the officer's question at all. Murphy is inside. The police want to take him back. Why? What exactly happened here? Chun Zhao asked. Sir, if you don't tell me your identity, I'll have to take forceful measures against you. The officer had already taken out handcuffs. Hey, David, are you sleeping? Your men seem to want to take forceful measures against me. Chun Zhao dialed David's number. Just then, he heard a familiar voice. You seem to have a habit of asking the boss for support. Chun Zhao turned around and saw Sharon standing behind him with her arms crossed. Hey, Sharon, you're not in charge of traffic anymore? Captain, do you know him? The previous officer asked. Sharon looked at Chun Zhao with a dark expression. Why are you here? Chapter 2489. Something happened to my employee. Is it weird that I'm here? Plus, my house is nearby. Your employee? You're a captain now? Chun Zhao asked curiously. What team are you in charge of? With a special crimes team. What are we in charge of? Special cases. Sharon did not elaborate. Confidential? Sort of. Is my employee related to the case you're in charge of? Sharon pointed at the helicopter that was burning and crashing. The symbol on the helicopter is Cerberus. And Cerberus is the largest organization in North America that produces and sells contraband. They also engage in kidnapping, human trafficking, organ trafficking, and all sorts of illegal experiments. What does this have to do with my employee? That's what I'm most curious about. Why was your employee attacked by the Cerberus organization? Most importantly, your employee actually killed 4 well-trained mercenaries. I want to see my employee. Sharon remained silent. Chun Zhao added, my lawyer will be here soon. You don't want to deal with them, right? Fine, I'll give you 3 minutes. Chun Zhao saw Murphy. Murphy was in the room. Under Sharon's order, 2 police officers walked out. Murphy was curled up in a corner, shivering. It seemed like he was frightened too. Murphy, boss. Murphy looked up at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao looked at Murphy. You drank blood? Murphy nodded. His face and body were covered in blood. Murphy raised his head and looked at Chun Zhao in fear. Then, he nodded silently. In the past, Murphy had lived like a normal person. There were no problems. At most, his body was slightly better than normal. Once he drank blood, his body would improve greatly. But after drinking blood, he would become addicted. Tell me what happened. Murphy took out a tracking device and said, maybe this thing led those people here. Tracking device? Where did it come from? Murphy told Chun Zhao what had happened last night. Hearing this, Chun Zhao frowned. In other words, the Cerberus organization was the one who released the beast to his ranch. It was probably to collect data. However, this behavior clearly displeased Chun Zhao. Could it be that he had an honest face? Why did they put this thing in front of their own house? Then, Chun Zhao looked at Murphy. Are you disobedient? Boss, I'll deal with you later. When the police ask you later, just say that you don't know anything. You don't know why they attacked you. Boss, I killed 5 people and even shot down a helicopter. That was self-defense. Why do you care so much? After that, Alex came. Chun Zhao left after saying a few words. Agnes, your son seems to be in trouble. What trouble? He's being chased by an organization called the Cerberus, and he drank human blood today. What's the specific situation? Chun Zhao told her everything he knew. After a moment of silence, Agnes said, You shouldn't have let Murphy take the risk. Please don't put the blame on me. I've already given him a few days off, but he insisted on taking the risk. I can't watch over him all the time. Let's not talk about who's responsible now. We need to solve the problem first. Fine. How do you want to solve it? Chun Zhao asked. I've never heard of this Cerberus organization. I need to investigate it. Then I'll wait for your good news. After Agnes ended the call, Sharon walked over. Chun, we're friends, right? Of course. Especially after you stopped checking my license on the road. We're real friends. So you didn't treat me as a friend before? It's hard to be friends with someone who always finds me on the road. Fine. I don't want to dwell on this. I want to know what information you have and how much do you know. My employee picked up a locator and was attacked by the Cerberus organization. If he's just a normal employee, how could he kill 4 fully armed mercenaries? Oh, and he shot down a helicopter. He's not a normal employee. He's the security guard of my manor. I'm not satisfied with this explanation. Other than this, I can't give you any other explanation. Chun Zhao shrugged. I've investigated him. He's only 20 and doesn't have any special training. How could he kill so many mercenaries? No matter how he killed those 5 people, at least his actions and motives are legal. Chun, I thought that letting you see your employee was enough to show my sincerity. Sharon, you've changed. In the past, you were upright and would find me every time you saw me. Now, you know how to talk to me about the ways of the world. Sharon's face darkened and she trembled in anger. If you don't want to tell me, then don't expect me to make things easier for you in the future. Seeing Sharon leave in a huff, Chun Zhao could only shrug. He couldn't take Sharon to see the beast's carcass, right? However, thinking of the carcass, Chun Zhao still decided to go and take a look. Perhaps he could find some clues. Following the location Murphy had provided, Chun Zhao found the carcass. By now, the carcass was scattered all over the place. However, most of its skeleton and organs were still intact. Chun Zhao put away the carcass and went back to study it. Looking at the wolf carcasses around him, Chun Zhao piled them up and cremated them. Just then, a helicopter suddenly flew past in the sky. Chun Zhao couldn't help but frown. Was it the Cerberus organization again? Were they searching for the carcass of the beast? Chun Zhao was considering whether he should let them search here and then follow them. Just then, Chun Zhao saw the logo on the helicopter. It wasn't an evil organization's helicopter. It was the logo of the forest rescue team. Usually, when travelers got lost or went missing in the forest, helicopters would be sent out to search for them. It seemed that it had nothing to do with him. Chun Zhao gave up on his initial idea. The helicopter only hovered in the sky for a minute and then left. Chun Zhao was about to leave when he suddenly felt a human presence at the edge of the small world. However, it was very weak and there were signs of wolf activity. Chapter 2490. Darren Heimerker hadn't drunk water for 2 days. It had been 3 days since he'd started exploring the desert and separated from the group. He'd used up all his water on the first day. He'd been unconscious for 6 hours during the day. He'd been exposed to the sun for a few hours. Fortunately, he'd woken up in the evening. If he hadn't woken up then, he would have definitely frozen to death. The temperature in the desert would plummet to below 0 at night. The desert was such an extreme environment. During the day, one would die of thirst. At night, one would freeze to death. However, at night, the biggest threat wasn't the low temperature, but the wolves. Right now, Darren Heimerker was facing the threat of the wolves. Those deep eyes were wandering in the dark night. That was the vision of the wolves. They weren't in a hurry to attack Darren Heimerker. They seemed to know Darren Heimerker's condition. They were waiting for Darren Heimerker to fall by himself. Then, they could go up and share the food without paying any price. Darren Heimerker was already staggering. Every step he took was extremely difficult. The wolves were also gradually approaching. Actually, they didn't need to go through so much trouble. As long as they pounced, Darren Heimerker wouldn't be able to resist at all. The dagger in his pocket was just a form of self-comfort. It had no use. Oh, whoa. At this moment, the pack of wolves howled. They seemed to have run out of patience. Darren Heimerker started running. He also realized that the wolves were preparing to attack. However, even if he ran at full speed, he could only buy a little time. At this moment, a wolf pounced on him and bit his arm. Darren Heimerker couldn't break free. He rolled on the ground with the wolf. The wolf was extremely fast. Before Darren Heimerker could react, it had already climbed back up and pounced on Darren Heimerker. I'm dead. Darren Heimerker had already given up. He felt that there was no hope. Suddenly, just as the wolf was about to pounce on him, it flew backward without any warning. Darren Heimerker froze. He looked back and realized that someone had appeared behind him without him knowing. Scram! Chun Zhao raised a foot and kicked a wolf that pounced at him. Chun Zhao recognized the wolf pack, so he didn't kill them. The wolves howled at Chun Zhao and then ran away dejectedly. Darren Heimerker stared at Chun Zhao in shock. There was clearly no one nearby, just now. Why did someone suddenly appear out of nowhere? Moreover, such a person kicked the wolf over and chased it away? No matter how Darren thought about it, it didn't seem right. Chun Zhao reached out to Darren. Are you okay? But Darren suddenly rolled away from Chun Zhao and took out his gun at the same time. Don't come over. Who are you? Is this how you treat your benefactor? Answer me first. Who are you? Who do you think I am when you trespass on my ranch? Ranch? You're the owner of the ranch here. Darren Heimerker was shocked. If there was a ranch, did that mean he was close to human habitation? That couldn't be right. How could a ranch owner wander around in the middle of the night without a weapon? Maybe I shouldn't have saved you. Instead, I should have let you get eaten by the wolves. Darren Heimerker hesitated for a moment. It seemed to be true. If he was one of those people, he indeed didn't need to do anything. He only needed to watch Chun Zhao get eaten by the wolves. He didn't need to waste time with Chun Zhao at all. Sorry. Darren Heimerker finally put down his gun. Why do you think I'm a bad person? Sorry, I was thinking too much, Darren said with his head lowered. However, he didn't trust Chun Zhao completely. Chun Zhao put his hands in his pockets. Do you need me to call the police? No. No need. Can I have some food and water? Sorry, I don't bring strangers to my house. With that, Chun Zhao turned to leave. If he hadn't threatened him with a gun just now, he didn't mind taking him home, giving him some food and drinks, and also notifying the police or rescue team. But from his reaction, he didn't seem to be just lost. He probably had other troubles on him as well. Darren stared at Chun Zhao, his eyes flickering. Sir, please don't reject someone who has a gun. If you could use your gun, you wouldn't have kept it hidden when the wolves were chasing you. Chun Zhao looked at Darren mockingly. You're right. You're right. Darren's expression changed. Indeed, it was as Chun Zhao had said. There were no bullets in his gun, so your threat is meaningless. Chun Zhao walked toward Darren step by step. Darren couldn't help but take a few steps back. In this environment, your life and death are in my hands, so what you did just now was very unwise. Sir, I was just joking. No, it wasn't. Darren pulled out his dagger. Don't come any closer. I'll kill you. Chun Zhao shrugged with a smile. Fine, you win. Goodbye. Seeing Chun Zhao leave so easily, Darren Heimerker could not help but hesitate. It seemed that this guy wasn't as strong as he'd imagined. Disdain rose in Darren's heart again. Stop right there. What can I do for you? Chun Zhao stopped again and turned to look at Darren. I have a knife now, so you have to listen to me. Cold weapons can't create absolute deterrence. Are you sure you can threaten me with a dagger? Chun Zhao walked toward Darren again. Plus, I'm full of energy right now, while you're exhausted. You have no advantage in terms of fighting or running. What makes you think that a dagger can make me listen to you? Darren's face suddenly became very ugly. He couldn't help but wave his dagger as if to embolden himself. I'm not joking with you. Do you know, the wolves haven't gone far, and there are not only wolves here, but there are also North American brown bears. You don't have to scare me. Howl. Actually, the howl came from Black Ma and White Ma nearby. The two of them usually mingled with the nearby wolves and were basically the leaders of these wolves. Hearing the howls of the wolves, Darren Hemiko shivered in fear. Just then, he saw the wolves appear in the darkness again. Chapter 2491. Darren Hemiko was so scared that he peed his pants. He saw a dozen wolves standing on a slope not far away. He hadn't seen the two leading wolves before, but they were more than twice the size of the others. Darren Hemiko was trembling with fear. The wolf pack started approaching them. Darren turned around and ran in the opposite direction. However, two legs couldn't outrun four legs. Soon, Darren Hemiko was surrounded by the wolves. Go find that person. Why are you all chasing me? Darren was both scared and angry. Even these animals bullied people like this? Just then, Chun Zhao walked over slowly. Look, I told you that your dagger is useless. Chun Zhao stood outside the wolf pack's encirclement. Darren stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. Why? Why aren't they attacking you? The two biggest wolves are my pets. Do you expect them to attack me? You're thinking too much. I'm joking. I was really joking. Joking again? Chun Zhao wasn't angry at Darren's reply. Smiling, he said, Fine, I'm joking with you too. You can run now. What are you talking about? You're going to watch me die? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded and checked the time on his phone. You can run for 5 minutes first. Then the wolves will chase you. If you're caught, you'll become part of them forever. I won't play this boring game with you. Really? Do you think running is a boring game? Chun Zhao looked at Darren. Then you can wait here for 5 minutes. Oh, you still have 4 minutes and 45 seconds, 42 seconds. Darren Hemiko suddenly broke into a run. He didn't dare to joke with his life. As he ran, Darren Hemiko suddenly saw a light in front of him. A town? Darren Hemiko was a little shocked, but he was more surprised than surprised. Darren Hemiko ran towards the light excitedly. Soon, he realized that he was in the town. Help! Help! Things on Sharon's side were more or less settled. Alex was too difficult to deal with. Sharon couldn't even bring Murphy and Rebecca back to the police station. This made Sharon very depressed. At the same time, she hated Chun Zhao. Captain, we found a lost person over there, and he's on the search and rescue list of the 4th Rescue Team. Why are you talking to me about this? Contact the local mountain rescue team and call an ambulance for him. Sharon waved her hand indifferently. Captain, that person carries a dagger with him. What's so strange about that? It's normal for people to carry a dagger in the desert. Captain, look. The subordinate handed a dagger to Shalon. She took it and saw a mark on the handle. Cerberus. Sharon couldn't help but frown. Where's he? The subordinate brought Sharon to Darren Hemiko. I'm going to call the police. Someone wants to kill me. Someone wants to kill me. Darren Hemiko shouted. Who wants to kill you? You can tell us, Sharon said. An Asian. That asterisk shoal met me in the desert and released a wolf pack to chase me. He wants the wolves to eat me. Asian? Wolf pack? Sharon's first thought was Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had only left for less than an hour. How did he meet him in the desert again? Bullshit. Just then, an old policeman shouted, There are only 2 wolves in Chen's family, Black Ma and White Ma. They're 2 good kids. This was a policeman from the Dashan police station. Black Ma and White Ma would usually wander around the town. After spending more time with them, he naturally fell in love with Black Ma and White Ma. Sometimes Black Ma and White Ma would even help the police station and the townspeople. Sometimes, when the children in the town got lost, the 2 of them would volunteer to help look for them. With their sense of smell, they would most likely be able to find them. If someone said that Chun Zhao released a wolf to bite people, no one would believe it. Outsiders like Sharon might believe it, but the townspeople definitely wouldn't. Seeing this, Sharon knew that it was useless to ask Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had 10,000 ways to avoid it. Even if it was true and Darren Hemiko's confession was useless. What's the matter? Bring it back first. Wait, I need treatment. I need to go to the hospital. Sir, I'll bring the doctor to you. As for the hospital, you don't have to go. Why? I'm a legal citizen. I have the right to ask for treatment at the hospital. I'm afraid not. I suspect that you're involved in some illegal organization and work, so you need to be investigated. Cerberus Research Base, is there any progress on number 6 accidental death? Moato, the security team sent an armed helicopter and a team to the coordinates sent by the locator, but they're all dead. The helicopter also crashed and attracted the police's attention. All dead. Are you sure you won't be exposed? Number 6 accidental death is an accident, but Darren Hamiko's betrayal is the biggest problem. You still haven't caught Darren Hamiko? He's already in the police's hands. Once his identity in our organization is exposed, our research base will be affected. It's best to move away before the police find us. How much information does Darren Hamiko know about us? Other than the location of the research base, he also stole 3 sets of research materials. What about his family? Moato asked coldly. When he joined our organization, it was premeditated. The information we found about his family has nothing to do with him. Even the longing he shows for his family is just an act. Go back and tell all the evolved people, Moato said. Also, pack up immediately. We have to leave in 3 days. 3 days is a bit of a rush. If possible, I want to leave now, but there is some equipment we can't abandon. What about the orders we have now? They're all from our old customers. We can't lose them. After thinking for a while, Moato said, 5 days. At most 5 days. We have to leave. Pack whatever you can. The research team and development team will leave for the second base first. The production line will be the last to pack. 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 2492. Tiger. Tiger looked up at Bach, who was walking in. Bach, you haven't been here for 2 days. Tiger's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Tiger, didn't you want to fight from abroad? I found one for you. Bach took out a contract. Huh? Who? How strong is he? What's his level? Tiger was immediately interested. A Russian boxer. He's in the same heavyweight category as you. Where's the venue? Where's the sponsor? How much is the prize money? He's a famous boxer too. He's already gotten $200 million in sponsorships. 200 million? Tiger sucked in a cold breath. That high? How do we split the prize money? Winner takes all, Bach said. Winner takes all? Does that mean I can get at least 200 million? Tiger was excited. The other party wants us to get more than $200 million. Otherwise, the contract's off. Wins the fight. Next Friday, the arena is set in Russia. That means there's only 1 week left. Can we get that many sponsors? 200 million isn't a small amount. So you can't stay at home all day, Bach said. You have to have enough exposure in the media. Also, you have to spend some money to buy popularity. Got it. Tiger nodded. Oh, Bach, do you still have the devil's potion you gave me last time? Do you still want it? Bach looked at Tiger in shock. He didn't expect Tiger to make such a request. In the past, Tiger was such a proud person. He would scoff at any illegal drugs. But now, he actually made such a request. He didn't know that Tiger's mentality had changed. On one hand, the devil's potion was very effective and had no obvious side effects. On the other hand, he was suddenly worried about this challenge. To be able to get $200 million in sponsorships meant that the other party's reputation couldn't be underestimated. Even if he stayed at his peak every year, it would be hard for him to win that much in the ring. The prize money from this match was enough for him to fight in the ring for a few years. Of course, he would pay more attention. Yes, but it's not cheap. Not cheap? How much? 10 million, Bach said. What? $10 million? Tiger suddenly stood up and stared at Bach angrily. Bach, you're too much. Are you trying to tell me that the medicine you gave me last time was worth $10 million? Even if you want to get money from me, you should at least find a reasonable reason. You can't just randomly raise the price tag, and it's such an outrageous price. He had also been working with Bach for some time. He roughly knew how much Bach was worth. His net worth was around 2 to 3 million USD. Would he spend $10 million to give her something? It was obviously impossible. Last time, it was a trial product. The other party took the initiative to give it to you. It's not the real deal. Bah, he said in a calm tone, and the effect of the genuine product is better than the trial product. Think about it. Just the effect of the trial product has already allowed your strength to achieve a qualitative leap. Is the price of the genuine product still considered expensive? But this price is too expensive. Can you negotiate with the other party? There's no bargaining. This kind of medicine needs to be custom-made. It's not something you can buy even if you have money. Moreover, if you don't have contacts, you won't be able to buy it at all. Bach said, "Why don't I give you the contact information of the seller and you contact them yourself?" Forget it, you do the contact. Tiger knew he wasn't cut out for that. It was better to leave some things to Bach, even if he knew he would get a certain amount of commission. But there was no other way. Some things were worth Bach's responsibility. For example, if he contacted the other party and they recorded it, it would be a devastating blow to him. Whether it was a sports star or an entertainment star, they all needed agents and assistants. That was because most of the time, they needed agents and assistants to contact people they weren't suitable to contact. Sign a contract so I can reply to them. Tiger didn't think too much and signed the contract quickly. Arrange for me to go abroad as soon as possible. I need to go there and adapt to the local environment in Russia. Rather than saying adapt, it was more like escaping. Bach muttered in his heart. Tiger was already so strong. How much did he fear that teacher of his? Got it. Bach nodded. I'll arrange it for you as soon as possible. Hello, Mr. Moato, I'm Bach. We've contacted before. I remember you, Bach. You're the agent of a sports star, right? Yes, Mr. Moato. I'm contacting you this time to buy a complete devil's mixture from you. Sure, but we need to move our production base, so we can't make it for you immediately. You'll have to wait for 2 weeks. Mr. Moato, I need it urgently. We can negotiate the price. I'm not trying to bargain with you. We've indeed run into some trouble. We need to move our production base and lab. Mr. Moato, don't you want to hear my price? Price? How much are you offering? $3 million, Bach said. Moato's eyes flashed, and he hesitated. His public price was $1 million for one mixture, and the price that Bahi gave him was indeed very tempting. Although they'd already developed the finished product, they'd also started turning it into merchandise, but it was still in the beginning stages. They couldn't break even yet. Also, they ran into trouble recently. The entire lab had to be moved. That was another large sum of money. He'd already invested all the money he could. There was still a huge gap. $5 million. Just as Moato was about to reply, Bach raised the price again. Mr. Moato, you know that I'm the agent of a sports star. In my company, there are many sports stars. We'll need more than one. As long as you're willing to help me, I'll be your biggest client in the near future. $5 million? Moato was finally tempted. Bring me the hair and blood samples as soon as possible. It's best if you can provide them to me today. Sure. Happy cooperation. Happy working with you, Moato thought to himself. Although time was tight, Bach's suggestion was indeed tempting. Jiotian Divine Emperor. Chapter 2493. Moato contacted his superior again. Mr. Vincent, what's the matter? One of our researchers betrayed us. He escaped from the institute and took some research data with him. According to our insider, the researcher is now in the hands of the police. I don't know how much information Darren Heimko will expose about the institute, and I don't know what the government will do after obtaining this information. However, there's a high probability that the research base will be exposed. Currently, I am arranging for the relocation of the institute, but time is running out. If the government takes action earlier than we expected and mobilizes the army, then the institute is likely to be destroyed. How much force do you expect the government will mobilize? There's something very dangerous in the research data that Darren Heimko stole. So, I think that once the government analyzes this data, it's very likely that they won't allow us to exist. So, they'll send a regiment of soldiers, and they'll probably carry heavy weapons. If the U.S. Army uses heavy weapons to wipe out our research institute, the ground units will suffer a devastating blow. At that time, our ground defense system will be destroyed for no reason. I will send some forces to defend you. Mr. Vincent, should we focus on retreating? It's just a regular regiment of armed forces. it's still within the acceptable range. Moodo could feel that Vincent's tone was full of confidence and even expectation. In addition, there is one more thing. One of our experimental subjects, Evolver number 6, was killed when he was collecting data in the real environment. The tracking device installed on Evolver number 6 was also taken away. When I sent an armed team to investigate, they also encountered an accident. Mr. Vincent, should I increase the number of people I have? You didn't put the experimental subjects in a densely populated area, did you? Not in a densely populated area, but in a forest area about 40 kilometers away from a small town. Have you found out the identity of the other party? A young man in his early 20s. All I can find out is that he is a rich man's security guard. He is responsible for patrolling the forests and pastures around the rich man's manor. There is no special information about him. Have you investigated the rich man? According to the local investigation, the rich man's net worth is more than $1 billion. Try not to provoke this kind of person, Vincent said. Even though he had absolute power, he did not want to provoke rich people. Rich people were a very troublesome group in this country. They would fight among themselves for benefits, but if a force from outside their circle intervened and harmed any of them, they would become extremely united. And every single one of them had unparalleled influence. If the entire group united, they could even shake an entire country. Thus, even Vincent did not like to provoke these rich people. Chun, Tiger has already signed a contract. The competition is next Friday, and the arena is in Moscow, Russia. Moscow, Russia? Chun Zhao frowned. Why there? It's too far away. Chun Zhao planned to watch the competition, but the venue was set there. This gave him a headache. In principle, he was not willing to go so far for such a small matter. At present, in addition to the North American region, several other top heavyweight boxers are from Eastern Europe. In addition, most of the broadcast rights were sold to European television stations. Okay, leave some tickets for me, Chun Zhao said. Chun, you can guarantee that Syndicate will win, right? Yes. I won't joke with my $200 million. That means I'll definitely make money if I bet with the underground banker, right? What are the odds for Tiger and Syndicate in the underground market now? 1,042. 44, Alex said. Is the odds that high? They're not on the same level in terms of strength and fame. If you bet a lot, can the underground banker pay that much? Chun, if you bet a few $100 million, the underground banker will definitely go back on his word. But if it's only a few tens of millions, the underground banker will consider your strength and won't risk offending you. Help me place a bet of $50 million US. Also, keep an eye on the banker. If he does anything wrong, let me know. Chun, are you sure you want to bet $50 million? It's quite risky. I've already bet $200 million. Why would I care about $50 million? Fine. You're the boss. Whatever you say. I'll bet $5 million too. As soon as Chun Zhao hung up, he received a call from West. President, I need to discuss something with you. What? I heard you're organizing a boxing match, right? Yes. What's wrong? Our association still has more than $10 million left this year. You want to bet too? Yes. If we can make money this time, we'll have more funds next year. Sure. Chun Zhao had no reason to reject West's suggestion. But I've already bet $50 million. If you add another $10 million, the underground banker will definitely feel the pressure. It's hard to guarantee that they won't skip the bet. President, it's not $10 million. It's a total of $30 million. Everyone in the association with some savings wants to bet with you. Even Aduz has $300,000. It doesn't matter, Chun Zhao said. It's not a lot. The underground banker has to pay us. If he got the meat, there was no reason he couldn't let his subordinates drink the soup. Chun Zhao thought about it, putting aside whether the underground banker could pay that much money. First, he had to let Sin win. But then he considered Tiger's abnormal growth in power. Chun Zhao couldn't help but suspect whether Tiger had used a second method to increase his power other than his own. If that was the case, with the training he gave Sin and the method to stimulate his potential, he might not be able to win for sure. It seemed that Chun Zhao had to make Sin even more powerful. Then he called Gaia. Chun Zhao hadn't told the association about the match between Sin and Tiger. Only Gaia knew about it. So Gaia must have told the association. Gaia probably invested a lot of money too. Chapter 2494. Xi and Jia. Today's training ends here, Gaia called. Xi and Jia looked at Gaia in surprise. It's only been an hour. Why are you so fast? Not only was the training duration wrong, but the way it ended was also wrong. Every time Gaia finished training, Xi and Jia would KO him with one punch. Then he would spasm on the ground for 20 minutes or pass out. But this time, Gaia only told him verbally that the training was over. Why is today's training so short? Your boss has other plans for you. Other plans? For some reason, Xi and Jia had a bad feeling about this. I'll take you to see your boss. Sitting in Gaia's car, Xi and Jia felt like he was about to escape. For some reason, the closer he got to his destination, the more danger he felt. But Gaia kept driving with one hand and leaning against the window with the other. The car sped down the road in the forest. Xi and Jia was worried that the car would fly off the road at any moment. The car drove all the way to a building in the depths of the forest. Xi and Jia saw an old man sitting in the security room at the entrance. He only opened the door after Gaia called him. The 4-story building in front of him was built horizontally, and it looked more like a modern style. But for some reason, Xi and Jia always had a creepy feeling. Many eyes seemed to be staring at him from the glass windows of the building. Just then, Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters. He walked to Gaia's car. Xi and Jia, why aren't you getting off? Boss. Xi and Jia gulped. Boss, where is this? It's none of your business, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Just then, a crane drove over. There was a 5-meter-wide pot hanging on its arm. Under Gaia's command, the pot was placed on a rack. Go into the pot, Chen Zhao said. Boss, this joke isn't funny at all. I'm not joking. Go in. You want to cook me? My intention isn't to cook you, but the process is similar. Xi and Jia's expression stiffened. Seeing Chen Zhao's serious gaze, he suddenly turned to run. But as soon as he turned around, Gaia punched his stomach. Xi and Jia fell to the ground in pain. However, he did not lose consciousness. He could feel Gaia lifting him up. Then, with a forceful throw, Xi and Jia was thrown several meters into the air before being thrown into the cauldron. Then, a large amount of liquid was poured in. It was a very fishy smell. It seemed to be the blood of some animal. Syndicate had also regained some of his strength. He wanted to climb out of the cauldron. However, the curved edges and the slippery bottom of the pot made it impossible for him to reach the edge of the pot, much less climb out. Just then, another large bone was thrown in from outside. Then there were all kinds of herbs. Syndicate was getting more and more terrified. This step was like stewing soup. He was the main ingredient, and just now, he was the seasoning. The pot began to heat up, and Xi and Jia's struggle became more and more intense. But due to the limitations of the pot's shape, no matter how much he struggled, it was useless. Just then, Hinga saw a few young people on the rooftop of the building. They were leaning against the fence and looking down at the situation below. Zinga immediately waved his hand. Help! Help! Help me! The few people also noticed Syndicate and waved with a smile. But they had no objections, and no one went to save him. Syndicate did not understand what was going on here. What was wrong with these people? Also, what was Chen Zhao and Gaia doing? He could not understand. He could not understand. Chen Zhao had clearly invested so much in him. Why would he do this? Could it be that everything that happened before was just a fool? Syndicate thought about how Chen Zhao had shown his bad taste many times before. He suddenly felt that this was the real Chen Zhao. He had given himself hope, then killed himself in a cruel way. The water temperature rose very slowly, but this increased Syndicate's fear. Syndicate suddenly felt that Chen Zhao was going to cook him. Then it seemed reasonable for him to disgust Chen Zhao before he died. The water was still heating up. Determined to die, Syndicate polluted the water in the pot. However, Syndicate waited for half an hour. The water temperature remained around 60 degrees. It was hot but not scalding. Another half an hour passed. Suddenly, Syndicate realized that the pot was tilting. As if he had grasped the hope of survival, Syndicate jumped out of the pot. Syndicate rolled on the ground a few times. Syndicate stood up and started running. But before he could take a step, his foot was hooked and he rolled on the ground. "Where are you going?" Chun Zhao asked Syndicate. "I've had enough of you, you bunch of lunatics." Syndicate roared and jumped up as if he was going to fight Chun Zhao. "President, I bet $800,000 on him," an elite said, clenching his fists. "Don't fight. Let me do it." Xin Jia glanced at an elite. What kind of person did he think he was? This man wasn't that strong. Syndicate swung his fist at an elite. However, an elite was faster than him and easily dodged Syndicate's attack. Then, he threw an uppercut and Syndicate fell to the ground. Thankfully, this punch felt weaker than Gaia's. But soon, he was controlled again. Then he was thrown back into the pot. The water in the pot was changed again. Then he was added. Finally, he was thrown in. Syndicate felt like he was going crazy. Either these people were crazy or they were crazy. This time, Syndicate gave up resisting and let the lunatics cook him. But 2 hours later, Syndicate realized that he wasn't cooked. It was just a repeat of the previous process. He was thrown out of the pot, then the water was changed and the ingredients were added. He was sent into the pot for the third time. The first time, he thought it was because he had polluted the pot. But the second time, he accepted his fate. They still changed the water for him. Syndicate couldn't understand this strange and mysterious action at all. Then he went in and out of the pot for the fourth time and the fifth time. Syndicate cooked from afternoon to past 10 at night. "Okay, you can come down now." When Syndicate came down from the pot, Gaia tossed him a set of clothes. "Put it on. Today's special event is over." Syndicate was confused. What the hell was going on today? He thought that he would be cooked and then eaten by these terrifying perverts. But nothing happened. He couldn't understand what these people were doing at all. Was it an evil ritual like those in movies? Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens, that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.